another day, the sun is shining. Got to know what's going on around you. Wake up, it's the time to motivate your mind. Come with me, let's make this moment brighter. Wake up with the Bahamas and sunrise. Come on and wake up with the Bahamas and sunrise. Wake up with the Bahamas and sunrise. Wake up with the Bahamas and sunrise. Hey.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise. I'm Tamika Cartwright, and it's so great to have you all in-house with us today. We have a great show today. We're actually going to be celebrating Financial Literacy Month, and we've got some great people in the house. Joining us today is going to be Nathaniel Butler. He's the president of Drewers Solutions, and he's going to be here to be discussing Financial Literacy Month with us. We also are going to be taking another look at our segment with Dr. Sean Knowles on the dangers of addiction, and we also have Mr. Gowan Bohe's here, CEO at Fidelity. He's going to be talking about the National Development Plan, and we also have Mr. we got Senator Randy Roll. He's here. He's the executive chairman of the Consumer Protection Commission, and we got an athlete in the house as well. We've got the World Masters 400 meter, Tim Munnings. He's here. He's going to be discussing all the wonderful things that's been happening with him. But before all that, let's take another look at weather with Mr. Godfrey Burnside.
This is Weather at Sunrise.
Thank you, Tammy, and good morning, Bahamas. Your first look at weather at sunrise. That high pressure that covered us over the last several days is now going to move to east, make way for a cool front, an active one, to move into the extreme northwest part of Grand Bahama Abaco on Tuesday afternoon, continue southeast across New Providence by Wednesday morning. That's going to bring some cloudiness, showers, and possible thunderstorms across the island and could cause some low-lying flooding on Wednesday. Any weather today, you're looking at partly sunny, a bit breezy, very warm. Your high temperature 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Tonight, a few patchy clouds around the mild side. Your low going down to 72 degrees Fahrenheit. And some region highs, lows across the Caribbean, Barbados 87 and 78. In Jamaica, 87 to 77. In Trinidad, 1976. And the Turks and Caicos Islands, 84 and 72. Across North America, Atlanta 64 and 61, in Boston 52 and 34, in Miami 83 and 71, Dallas, Texas 62 and 47, and Toronto, Canada 41 and 29. As we go the week, the cold front moves in on Tuesday afternoon over Grand Bahama and Abaco, and that will increase our cloudiness, showers, and thunderstorms. So on Tuesday, we started with partly sunny skies, but we have increasing cloudiness, showers, and thunderstorms, and that will continue through Wednesday into Thursday morning. Another cold front expected on Friday that brings some cloudiness. We do expect some temperatures to drop into the low 80s now at daytime and the upper 60s at nighttime. That puts a wrap on your first look at weather at sunrise. I'm Godfrey Burnside. Back to commercial break.
How important collecting your money can be to the success of your business. Start your relationship with Fidelity today so that we can show you the many options available to you with our merchant services. From click and pay options online to merchant terminals and e-commerce options. We're here to help your business succeed. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit any of our branches.
Welcome back. Joining me now is Nathaniel Butler from Druber Solutions. He's going to be talking to us about financial literacy. Good morning and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be back here and speaking to the Bahamas at Sunrise audience.
Awesome, awesome. So tell us, what is financial literacy?
Great question. So financial literacy in a nutshell is having the knowledge, the skills, and the tools in regards to making the right money decisions.
Okay, money decisions.
Money decisions.
Wow, so why is that important when we think about money decisions? Because I'm thinking banks, I'm thinking loans, I'm thinking mortgages, but what exactly does that mean? Because I'm sure it's more than that.
No, let's scale it back. It's all about, money decisions are centered around having the desired lifestyle that we want to live, right?
Okay.
And so every layer of decision has a financial implication to it. Let's just say basic concepts, right? Second thing is, because it was probably never discussed, assessing where they are, where they stand as it pertains to their financial situation. And so, you know, as Bahamians, we're a society that can be prideful at times. And so you'll find that depending on the environment, you can make persons very uncomfortable. And so these are some of the barriers. And you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, I always say that too. So with that, what are some questions then that people should be asking?
Well, there are basically 8 areas all over financial literacy or money management in your life. You have to understand what is coming and ask the tough questions in regards to, okay, what am I spending in the various different categories? The second area we have to also take into consideration, we have a present us and we have a future us, meaning that are we doing enough to make sure that we can retire for the future, right? And then the last question, are the things that we want most in life, are we mortgaging our future, or are we empowering ourselves to produce the level of income and comfort that we need? What I mean by that, the question is, are we taking on more debt than we can handle?
Right.
You
And
know what I
sometimes
mean?
that's the case for a lot of people, right?
But at the same time, let's balance that, because the reality of it is we live in one of the most expensive countries in the world. So as a result of that, we have to use debt as a means to survive. My advice is use debt as a means to get income-producing assets for the most part. But what you find today is most persons are using debt to just, you know, cover their basic living expenses.
Right. So what advice then would you have for individuals that are operating on a minimum wage? I mean, they want to plan for the future, but we live in a very expensive environment. What do we do?
You know what's so interesting about that? For a person who's on minimum wage, my conversation to them is basically this. Are you living up to your income producing capacity? And most persons will tell me who are in that situation, no. So the question is 2 things. We need to have singular focus in the area of a passion and also develop the skill within that same area so we can raise the income. You know, that's the reality. You have to be empowered to raise your income, and that can only happen if you are disciplined and have the knowledge and tools and have a skill that is needed in the marketplace. Once that happens, then the next step is really controlling the money on the back end. You know, money management, expense management, and then also what can we do in regards to the other areas, in regards to investment, retirement, even in regards to in all of the assets that we acquire, we want to make sure that we also putting it away, making sure that it goes to the right people upon our demise. So we have to look at things like estate planning and also insurance.
Right, okay. And you talked about retirement a lot. How should individuals now, I mean, like, you know, individuals mid-age, younger even, how should we be preparing for retirement at this stage?
Great question. So what you will realize that if you're not working in certain industries where your employer is providing you a pension fund, so there's a lot of persons who fall outside of that scope. You have to take it upon yourself and plan for your own retirement. It's not your employer's responsibility, it's your responsibility. And what I mean by that is most people see NIB as the fallback for retirement. NIB can assist, but it should not be the main source of your retirement. So as a result of that, what you need to look at is look at some of the investment firms that are out there and see what products are available for persons on a more lower end where they may not have a lot of savings or a lot of disposable income. You could look at a more savings kind of plan. And for those who have the disposable income, then we could get into more like a personal pension plan or individual retirement account. And like I said, there are a number of providers out there that they can go to.
Right, okay. And we see a lot now that people are losing their homes, you know what I mean? Mortgages aren't being paid. What do you feel are some of the mistakes that people make along the way when it comes down to financial literacy and just being well equipped?
I think most persons are not educated in regards to the process of what it takes to acquire a mortgage and then what it takes to maintain a mortgage, right? I think once they get a mortgage, the next step is, okay, how do I maintain this property and also the costs that are associated with the maintenance of this property. And so what I would normally advise is, for starters, knowing that you have an income that might be not reliable, or you might be at the beginning of your career and you want to probably switch over into another career, that you may need to look at more income generating properties as your starter home and then eventually go into trying to build a dream home. And then another thing too is, don't get into too much debt very early, because what tends to happen is, even though they're trying to cover the mortgage, you find that they also have these other consumer kind of products, and then trying to balance the mortgage along with the consumer product, and then you're, in some cases, could be sandwiched. You got children and an ailing parent. It could be a lot for a person to handle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you talked about, sometimes that kids are not even aware, like within the home, on how to, be financially literate. And maybe that's there's a gap there. So what can parents do now to, just to make sure that their kids are also a part of this process?
Believe it or not, our foundation in regards to financial literacy should come from home.
Yeah.
And the conversations need to start as early as you can at the child's place of understanding. Now, what I would advise is, and I know some parents are not comfortable with this, but I think it's good discussion, in the sense of sometimes you might have to make them aware of what are the expenses in the home, how much it really costs. Let them see the BPL bill, let them see the water and sewage bill, let them see how much their school fee costs. And now having that sense of reality allows them to kind of even prepare and how they're going to handle expenses. So a child that is aware of what their parents are faced would probably not ask for as much money compared to a child who have no reality. And then what makes it worse is that same child is put into the real world, and you begin to realize that child can't fend for themselves simply because they can't handle the amount of bills coming on a consistent basis at them. And so what ends up happening is they become a dependent to the parent.
Yes.
Who send them into the real world. So you find that some parents are still subsidizing their child well after in their 20s, I could even say in some cases going into their 30s, and maybe potentially even in their 40s.
And that's a problem.
It is.
That's a problem.
It is.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. Very insightful information. Thank you so much for being here and sharing with us.
Thank you so much.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.
For over half a century, we've been more than just an airline. We've been a bridge, connecting families, dreams, and memories across the islands and beyond. Behind every seat sold and every journey planned, there's a dedicated team committed to making air travel affordable and accessible to everyone. At Bahamas Air, we're not just building connections, we're building a safe and dependable airline where quality service is paramount and an excellent travel experience is our priority. Wherever you're going, we're here to take you there with care, with heart, and with the promise of unforgettable journeys. We are family, and just like family, we're committed to taking care of our own. Your Bahamas Air is our Bahamas Air, because here at Bahamas Air, we don't just fly here, we live here.
When hurricanes and emergencies strike, timely information can save lives. That's why Alive Business brings you bulk SMS messaging, your essential tool for staying informed and safe. Imagine having critical updates and safety tips delivered right to your phone, anytime and anywhere. With bulk SMS messaging, you can send real-time alerts and updates and timely notifications. When every second counts, count on Alive Business bulk SMS messaging. For more information, contact the experts.
I can't believe how big Christopher's gotten. He'll soon be ready for college.
Not at the rate I'm going. I'm praying for an athletic scholarship.
It's never a bad time to start saving. I just started Nicole on a college savings plan. I have options based on her age. It contains a mix of stocks, bonds, however you choose.
Mommy, come push me.
I'm coming.
Girl, how do you know all of this?
What's Leno?
Comfort Suites Paradise Island is the best kept secret in the Bahamas. Located directly next door to the Atlantis Resort, you'll receive all the privileges of an Atlantis guest with all the benefits of a Comfort Suite stay. Enjoy everything Atlantis has to offer, including Aquaventure Water Park, plus all the amenities of Comfort Suites. Free Wi-Fi, free breakfast daily, and kids stay, play, and eat free. Visit ComfortSuitesPI.com.
Back. Joining me now is Timothy Munnings. He's the World Masters 400 meter champion. Good morning and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Wow. So what does this mean for you? World Masters 400 meter champion. What does that mean for you?
I love the ring of that. It sounds really good. You know, it's been a long time since I was an elite athlete. I've stepped out of the sport for over 20 years.
Wow.
And so to come back and be competing at another competitive level, it's really encouraging, you know.
Wow. So what does this mean? This means that you were the fastest in the world in this particular race? Tell us.
Correct. So the Masters organization, the Masters Athletics organization starts from anywhere from age 35 until you can't do it anymore. And so at this competition I was in, which was in Gainesville, Florida, the oldest registered competitor was 104 years old.
No way.
Can you believe that?
No way.
And so I might have been the baby there, you know, one of the youngest. But so you saw persons from all age levels competing, showing that they're still able to be active and mobile.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So just tell us about your athletic journey from childhood to now.
Wow. Well, I'll fast forward. I'm a late bloomer, so I didn't run in college. I started my athletic career after I graduated from college. My parents were very academic focused, and so it was until after I graduated that I started to pick up. Made it to 2 Olympics, 1996 and 2000. That's when the Golden Girls officially became the Golden Girls.
Okay.
Went on, won some more medals, and then that was it.
Wow.
Started to raise a family, and you start to put your energy and time into your career and your family. Until they had enough, they said, you know, Daddy, get a life, do something, you know. So, you know, because I'm very involved in their life. I come home from work, and you know, they had enough. They said, do something.
You see how these kids go.
So I began my journey, athletic journey, trying to get fit, until I realized that I needed a purpose. So running the hills, running the beach, running the road, going to the gym, I was like, why am I doing it? Why am I trying to kill myself? So I decided to come up with a goal, and that was to run in a competition so I can measure my progress. And here I am.
Wow, amazing, amazing. And tell us just about the support, because I mean, I know the kids were saying to you, Daddy, get out of the house, but what's the support like for you? Who supports you in this journey?
I have tremendous family support. My brothers, my sisters, my nephews, my nieces, my cousins, a strong family support. And of course, my wife, who's there behind the scenes, sees me aching. She said, you can't be an athlete, not with, not with all this rubbing and stretching you got to do. But I have a strong support system. Yeah. Family and friends, even my co-workers have a lot of support. So that makes the journey a lot easier.
Okay, so what do you do when you're not running? What's the daytime job?
I work with Ministry of Health at the moment.
Okay.
So I'm the former director of sports, and so I was exposed to a lot of sports. And now I'm at Ministry of Health, exposed to a new area of the government. Right. So it's all interesting.
And they must all be so excited for you as well, right?
I hope they are.
Oh my gosh. All right, so tell us a little bit about some of the other races that you've ran before. Is it just the 400, or do you do others?
Sure. So the indoor competition is slightly different from the outdoor competition, where to run a 400 meters outdoors, it's 1 lap. 400 meters indoors, it's 2 laps.
Okay.
And so for 200 meters, which I also competed in, it's 1 lap, but I got disqualified. So it was a new experience, and trying to maintain your balance on a curve, which is a banked curve also. It's not a flat curve. It's not a flat track, it's banked. I ended up stepping on the line all over the place.
Okay, so there are all these different restrictions that you have to be aware of.
Yes, you have to be very aware. Okay. Now I said they probably know I was coming strong in the 400, so they tried to disqualify me, but they did the wrong race.
There you go.
400 is my specialty, so I was able to rebound. We had some other competitors there, Mike Armbrister, who also medaled in the long jump. He's in the 65 and up category.
Wow.
And then just prior to me going out to run, one of our 85-year-old competitors, Dr. Brian Humblestone, made it to the finals, and I was like, wow, if this man medals and I don't medal, I can't go home.
Sounds like a real competitive there, right?
I had to make sure to get it right.
Right,
know?
okay.
But
okay.
I commend those athletes for stepping up. Miriam Byfield out of Grand Bahama. Not everyone was successful, but I commend them for being courageous enough to get out there when you put yourself in front of the world.
Yeah.
And for the Bahamas. So,
that's right. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, tell us what for you. What advice would you give to those individuals that are over the age? I mean, you talked about some numbers there: 85, 105. I mean, amazing, incredible, right?
Yes,
what advice would you give to those individuals that might be over the 35 mark and are just thinking, oh, you know what? I don't know. How do I get back into it? It's just so much to get back into it at that particular age. What advice would you give them?
Well, through my success, I've been approached by hundreds of persons that have expressed an interest in, I think I want to get back. I want to throw. I want to run. But the thing is, you have to get started. You have to get started, and don't believe that these competitions where you have older persons competing, it's easy. These guys take it very seriously, and they're very competitive. So you get started now. Start step by step, gradually. If you were running in school, don't try to run what you did in school, but make gradual, incremental improvements, and you can do it.
Right, okay. And what's the lifestyle change like for you, when you're preparing now to be an athlete? What has to change in life in order for you to be able to be a success?
Sure. Well, for me, this type of lifestyle was normal. I've come from an athletic household. My kid's athletic. My sister tennis, my brother swims, my niece swims. So the lifestyle was there. But for persons that are interested, you really have to watch what you eat, get your rest. I can't say cut out junk food and cut out this thing, but do those things in moderation. Trim down as much as you can the high sugars, all the stuff that Ministry of Health promotes, because chronic non-communicable diseases is killing us, diabetes and sugar. But you just got to get moving and watch what you eat.
That's important. And you've got some bling around the neck. Tell us what you've got here.
Yes. So these two smaller medals are what I won in August of last year at the World Masters Outdoor Championships. Nice. Gold and bronze. Wow. Gold in the 400, bronze in the 200 meters. Again, I thought I was going to win the 200 meters, not realizing how fast they were. And so I learned my lesson. And of course, this is the latest one. This is the 400-meter gold medal indoors and the world record medal as well.
Okay.
So,
I mean, I'm thinking that you're probably most proud of the biggest one, but which one are you most proud of?
Oh, I'm proud of them all. I take them all. Anyone that knows the 400 knows that it's a difficult race to run. You run it slow, it hurts. You run it fast, it hurts. So knowing that I've been able to prepare myself to do it again, I feel very accomplished.
Right. Well, I mean, it's been a pleasure having you on. Is there any final words that you want to say to potential athletes out there?
Oh, wow. Well, I want to say, first of all, thank you to my whole family. Thank you to Bahamas for supporting me, all the messages of encouragement and congratulatory messages. Thank you to my teammates that were there. And hey, we can do it. If you want to run, you want to jump, come on out. Let's get started.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. Congratulations. Hopefully we'll see even more successes in the future, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank
Ladies
you.
and gentlemen, you've been watching Bahamas at Sunrise, and we're celebrating here with Tim Munnings. He's our champion. We'll be right back.
As a professional graphic artist, I work from anywhere in the world. When I travel, I try to keep up with my paperwork and bills as much as possible, utilizing NIB's ESS or Employee Self-Service Portal to submit my monthly payments and to upload my contribution statement makes life easier. The portal is pretty easy to use too. I consider it to be user-friendly. It asks all the necessary questions to guide me through uploading my contribution statement, and I like that it calculates my payments. The NIB representative who showed me how to use the portal, she was patient, friendly, and knowledgeable. I used to fill out my contribution statement manually and visit an NIB office every month to make payments. But now the ESS portal allows for the entire process to be completed online in a time-efficient manner. Like, yay, thank you, that's done.
You should sign up today at ess@nib-bahamas.com.
African Things is your one-stop shop for everything African. Make a bold fashion statement with vibrant colors and intricate patterns inspired by the beauty of Africa. Find trendy contemporary looks for every occasion and enjoy custom tailoring. Shop jewelry, purses, art, cosmetics, and much more. African Things is located in the Dugard Plaza, Palmdale, next to McDonald's. Open Tuesday to Saturday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come get your African Things.
At Simplified Lending, we know that your time is precious, so we've unscrambled the loan process, making it fast and hassle-free. You can have your answer in as little as 24 hours. When you qualify, we simplify. We are the best borrowing solution for tuition, home renovation, vacation loans, emergency medical expenses, purchasing a vehicle, and for business expansion loans. Simplified Lending for simplified living. Call us today or find us in the R&D Plaza on JFK Drive.
Hey family, step into sophistication at Dash Designer Boutique, number 13 Parliament Street. There you find a wide array of colorful, elegant fashion for ladies. Shop brand name clothing and shoes such as McDougal, Bashley Mishka, Sam Elderman, Jeffrey Campbell, and Jessica Simpson. We've got you covered for the office, date night, red carpet events, and more. Also check out our stunning accessories. That's Dash Designer Boutique, number 13 Parliament Street. Open 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., Tuesday through Saturday.
Welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise. I'm Tamika Cartwright. It's the mid-show, and we're so happy that you stuck with us. I really did enjoy the first half of the segment. We had Timothy Munnings. He was here. He is the master 400-meter winner. I mean, he's our champion. Great conversation with him. And we also had Nathaniel Butler. He was talking about financial literacy. Very, very important information there. And we've got another great second half. We've got Gowan. He's the CEO of Fidelity Bank. He's going to be talking about the National Development Plan. You don't want to miss that. And we also have Senator Randy Roll. He is here and he's going to be talking about the Consumer Protection Commission. But before all that, let's take another look at weather with Mr. Godfrey Burnside.
This is Weather at Sunrise.
Thank you, Tommy. Good morning, Bahamas. Just a second look at weather. Sunrise. That robust high pressure across all those windy conditions over the last several days. It's now going to move towards the east, make way for a cold front, a very active one to move in here sometime on Tuesday afternoon across Grand Bahama Group vehicles, New Providence, early on Wednesday morning. Those showers and thunderstorms will hang around through Wednesday into Thursday morning. High pressure builds again, and then another weak front boundary moves through on Saturday. In your marine forecast today, those winds south to southwest at 15 knots, sea 3 to 5 feet of northwest Bahamas. East to southeast at 15 knots, seas 3 to 5 feet, or the central and southeastern islands. On Tuesday, the winds become southwesterly at 10 to 15 knots, sea 2 to 4 feet, or the northwest Bahamas. Southeast to south at 10 to 15 knots, sea 2 to 4 feet, or the central Bahamas. And east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots, sea 2 to 4 feet, or the southeastern islands. The unknown Wednesday at the cold front, those winds become northeasterly at 10 to 15 knots, sea 2 to 4 feet, or northwest Bahamas. Light and variable seas less than 3 feet, or the central and southeastern islands. Your tides. You can expect a low tide at 6 minutes past 11 this morning. Next high tide will be at 5:08 this evening. Low again tonight at 17 minutes past 11. Sunset, 7:21 this evening. Rising at 6:54. UV index 8. Your water temperature 77 degrees Fahrenheit. And your moon phase for its quarter. Your extended look. We expect increasing cloudiness, some showers and thunderstorms by late tomorrow afternoon into Wednesday morning across the islands. And then we have a mix of sun and clouds remaining the week. The temperature daytime will go from those hot temperatures over the weekend. Now the temperature now drop into low 80s at daytime, upper 60s at nighttime. That puts a wrap on your final look at weather at sunrise. I'm Godfrey Burnside. Back to you, Tammy.
Welcome back. Joining me now is Mr. Gowan Bose, CEO at Fidelity Bank, and he's here to talk to us about the National Development Plan. Good morning and welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Honored to meet you. Hasn't been that long.
I know, right? I feel like you're always on, but it's always such a great conversation with you. So tell us a little bit about what the National Development Plan is, just so that people out there could really understand.
You know, well, I think the current environment is probably the best time to talk about it, meaning all of the chaos that has taken place. That in the midst of chaos, you want to have a strategy and a plan where people can follow and see that notwithstanding that there's turbulence, that you could have a clear understanding. The National Development Plan really comprises 4 pillars. It looks at our social pillar, which is our healthcare, our education, our family structure. It has an economic pillar. What are our economic drivers? Tourism, financial services, but what are also our economic development plans, etc. It has the built-in natural environment, so it's talking about our natural resources, but it's also talking about infrastructure and how we are setting the country on course for development in the future. And then finally, governance, which probably most politicians don't like, but it's looking at a merit-based system in terms of how do we move the civil service, how do we move the cabinet ministers, etc., into a performance-based initiative. So really, it's a plan of saying, well, what is the vision for the country for a generation? And we've been stuck, unfortunately, for too long in this election cycle. We get beautiful paraphernalia every 5 years, but the reality is, can you change the course of history over 5 years? And we know the answer to that is no. Everything is generational, even when we think about majority rule, when we think about independence, and where we are today as a country. Okay, and the National Development Plan, it was initiated during the Christie administration, so is it still relevant today? You know, the reality is 2013, 14, thereabouts, when it was initiated, it really looked at 25 years. So it was hoped to be implemented in 2015, and it's called Vision 2040, so it carried you out 25 years. You know, move forward 10 years, if you will, in that regard. We need to refresh it, and maybe it should be Vision 2050, because we run the risk of it being too short. When we look at countries that are successful, some that have, you know, multi-generational, so like China, their plans go out 100 years plus. Other Scandinavian countries and other smaller jurisdictions certainly look at 1 generation, which we know is 20 years. So 25 years is important. So I think the foundation that was formed in 2015 thereabouts certainly gives us the information in terms of where was the state of the nation at that point. And sadly, the country has probably not moved very much since 2015 to 2025. And we probably haven't moved a significant amount since independence, because we had a lot of flurry of activity that did development elements like the Central Bank, Mortgage Corporation, National Insurance, University of the Bahamas. So when we think of the pillars upon which we stand now, those were done generations ago. So when we start talking about the future, we have to start thinking about what's going to be the next generational shift. Okay, and what do you think that should be? Well, you know, as I said, the current chaos that we're in tells us, and you hear a lot of persons now asking the questions, well, what is this trade war going to mean for the Bahamas? If you look at the long-term GDP growth, if you look at the long-term stock market returns, they've always had an upward trajectory, but there's been tremendous volatility in different periods. When you have that chaos, you need a guiding principle, you need a guiding instrument that allows you to say, well, not to be distracted, not to be thrown off course, or not to be discouraged when things don't necessarily move in the way that you expect them to do immediately. We have things like we have to get our country into economic independence. Persons have to be of a mindset that they are not looking to borrow their way out of problems, that they are going to have wealth that they pass on from generation to generation. We need to look at tourism from a perspective of, are we maximizing it? We always talk about diversification, but really it's a natural resource that we have to exploit. Financial services is not going anywhere, it's just changed. The high net worth persons are getting wealthier, they're not losing wealth, and so how do we corner that market? Non-communicable diseases, we need to address that so that we become a healthier nation. Our crime situation, our education really need that long-term planning that says, how do we get our children educated so they are going to be contributors to the national environment, not to some other country. So it's hard to kind of, I'm going to say, single pinpoint one element, but holistically, if we have consensus, which we did, because being a part of the steering committee, persons embraced having a view that removed the politics, because what it said is, I no longer need to listen to the politician promising me. I have a plan, and really what I will judge them on thereafter is how well they execute.
So I want to ask you about that. So beyond cannibalizing for party politics, will it ever be implemented?
You know, I'm always the optimist. People may not say that. My viewpoint is the mindset of the country is shifting. The demands of the younger generation are certainly more elevated, and there's less reverence, and I don't mean it in a negative way. The younger generation do not say simply because you're in positions of authority that they simply respect. You have to earn their respect. And I think from that perspective, the demand for telling me where we're going, if you listen to the young persons today, they are saying, is this country for me? Is there a place for me? And help me to see the vision in that. And so they are demanding the National Development Plan, even though they're not using those words. So really what they're saying is, tell us what our objectives are, tell us how we're going to get there and over what period of time, and show us how we fit into it. And that, in a nutshell, is the National Development Plan.
Okay. So from what we understand now, no party has demonstrated an interest in the National Development Plan as originally envisioned, right? So, you know, should we be concerned?
I think we should be demanding yes. The current Prime Minister has initiated staffing. Again, he's initiated premises. He's initiated the steering committee with the chairperson and some of the original players that the chairperson has enlisted. So, shall we put it this way? There is at least some positive movement. Is it at the pace we would like to have, given that we know there's a general election next year? If I speak candidly, no. And the reality is, I think governments and political parties fear the National Development Plan because it takes it from a rah-rah rally speech into now a concrete, if you will, strategy that then may highlight the flaws and the deficiencies in their ability to execute and the patience, because ultimately Rome wasn't built in a day. The Bahamas is where we are today, not because of the last administration or the administration before that. We've not had a single year of fiscal surplus since independence, and that's over 50 years. And so from that perspective, our correction, if we want to call it that, is certainly not going to be over the next 5. And so I think political parties fear when you talk about a period beyond their own existence.
Yeah. When you think about the current financial climate, right? Because I mean, you know, we had the cost of eggs had skyrocketed. Everyone's like, what are we going to do about eggs, right? We had to go somewhere else for that. Tariffs are being placed on items. I mean, we now have a 10% increase on items that we export. So there's this frenzy. Like I can almost feel it when I talk to just different social groups. Everyone's just feeling a little bit nervous, you know. Is there going to be a recession? I mean, people are nervous. I mean, what do you have to say about that?
And that's why I say the National Development Plan, whilst not a silver bullet and not necessarily a panacea, would help you to have greater comfort that the ship is still being steered even though we have choppy seas. When we talk about the cost of living, a lot of it is driven by our consumption-based tax system. The ability to help the less fortunate is a lot further constrained by the absence of an income tax system which is paying based on your ability to pay, not necessarily on what you consume. When we talk about the cost of our administration, most of it is in healthcare and education, but are we getting the results? So what I would say is that this turmoil and this chaos really highlights the need for it, because if we could look out and say, well, this is but a mere point in time, and as the Bible says, this too shall pass, then we would have greater comfort. I think the excitement gets exacerbated because persons are saying, well, everyone is kind of wait and see. And whilst that sounds nice, waiting and seeing and then being the recipient of a gunshot ain't the one you want to have, right?
Exactly.
You would like to have your armor, you would like to have your own weapon to say, even though I'm not an influencer, I'm prepared for what's taking place in the outside world, and these are the things I'm going to do. And if we look at both political parties, what are they doing? They are pandering to what I'm going to call the emotional and what people want to hear, but no one has articulated what we're going to do for the next generation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been a pleasure having you on. Always such great information. Thank you so much for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.
We know how important collecting your money can be to the success of your business. Start your relationship with Fidelity today so that we can show you the many options available to you with our merchant services. From click and pay options online to merchant terminals and e-commerce options. We're here to help your business succeed. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit any of our branches.
Introducing the Focal Smart Pass app that helps you to fuel up faster. Here's how it works. Download the app on the App Store or get it on Google Play and create your profile with payment details. Visit your nearest Shell station, open the app, scan the pump's QR code, select your payment amount, and begin fueling. Say goodbye to cash and cards because the Focal Smart Pass offers secure and convenient payment options right at your fingertips. Download Focal Smart Pass now and fuel up faster today.
The Euro device is very affordable. It allows you to increase your internet connectivity. You are able to do away with the buffering, say goodbye to the dead spots. It gives them a much more stable connection. Their customers are able to view their digital menus. The establishment is able to stream. It allows for everyone, the customers and the business operators, to have a much more robust and stable internet connectivity.
Welcome back. Joining me now is Senator Randy Roll, Executive Chairman of the Consumer Protection Commission. Good morning and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Right, so tell us a little bit about the Consumer Protection Commission.
Well, the Consumer Protection Commission was first started in 2006, and it was a means to safeguarding Bahamians and the consumers against, merchants and providers that may have treated them a certain way. So,
okay, all right. What are some of the concerns that you see in that particular role?
Well, for the most part, Bahamians complain about when they feel that they're taken advantage of. I can tell you in the last couple of months, the top complaint has been that of shipping companies and being able to, spend your money not getting goods for service provided. We've seen some complaints as it relates to persons in the food stores and different merchants in terms of buying cell phones, different materials, and not getting quality value for money.
Okay, and when you get those complaints, what then happens? What do you all do in your department?
Okay, well, it's a process, and what happens is once a consumer feels that they've been wronged, certainly they write to us or they send us a phone call. We have several inspectors that actually open a file for that particular customer, and through that process, they are able to investigate the matter, to speak to the merchants as well as the consumer. And the first instance for us is to try and come together for a resolve without having to go to the courts, without having to incur fines. And it's been pretty good because I can tell you that last year alone, we've had over a 70% success rate in just, solving issues without it having to go through court or any further.
Okay, and do you find you get a lot of complaints about these things, or is it just the one-off?
I can tell you that over the past year, it has increased. Last year, our numbers ended at about 444 complaints total for the year. The year before that, it was I think, less than 200. And so as persons hear about it, as they are familiar with their rights as consumers, then they're calling in and they're finding out that there is redress. In terms of dollar value, last year alone, we recovered some $240,000 in lost revenue for consumers. And so the dollar value speaks to the success as well. This year alone, I think last time I checked, we were somewhere over $41,000, and it's just April now. So again, we're on pace to even do better than we did last year.
Okay, all right. And do you have any concerns about that moving forward?
Well, I think the more an educated consumer is a good consumer, and that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that consumers understand their rights and that merchants and providers are not taking advantage of them. We work hard for a couple of dollars, and so we want to make sure that it's covered, it's secure, and we get value for money.
Okay. And how, as a consumer, how do we know our rights? Where do we get that information from?
Well, again, what we've started doing is there's a number of different things we've done. We've done some PSAs. We're doing some Did You Knows. We're doing consumer tips on a daily basis. And those are things that are helping the consumer. And then shows such as this, and whenever we have the opportunity to speak to the consumers, certainly they get an opportunity to get an understanding of what's happening and certainly use our services.
Yeah. So I want to know then, because this is something that I'm curious about. So when we have, for example, the cost of eggs skyrocketing, and I think the reason was because it was bird flu or something. So I guess people may look at that and say, okay, that's justifiable. But at the end of the day, I mean, the consumer is used to paying maybe like $3 for eggs. Where do you all come in with that? How do you balance that?
Well, again, the way consumer protection works is once you give us a complaint, this is something that we investigated. But I can tell you that a part of the Davis's administration, part of them trying to resolve these issues is we're looking at the cost of living strategy. And so a part of that will be the putting in competition legislation that will again help to kind of steer where we're trying to go in the right direction. So there's a number of initiatives that you're going to see over the next couple of weeks and months, and certainly it's meant to help the consumer in stretching their dollar further.
Okay, and so VAT was reduced on food items to 5%. Tell us a little bit about that, and I mean, and why now? Why wasn't it reduced, a couple of years ago?
Well, again, like I said, we see what's happening globally, and again, a part of the Davis administration's strategy in reducing the cost of living. Cost of living is possibly the #1 complaint by Bahamians so far, and so what we're trying to do is look at different ways in which we can eliminate that cost of living for Bahamians so that your dollar can stretch. I can tell you one of the things the Davis administration did when we came to office was we lowered the VAT from 12% to 10%. And so this is not the first time you're seeing such a reduction. Again, there was room to be able to do some other things. And so again, you're going to see it lowered to, like I said, it was lowered to 5%. We're going to put in compensation legislation, which will again safeguard Bahamians from having different options. We're probably one of the only countries in this part of the world that don't have competition legislation. And why is that important? For example, many Bahamians don't know that bread basket items are only 11 items and then 11 extended items. So it's only about 22 items that there is some control over. So what happens to the other items? And that's where competition legislation comes into play. We want to say, you have a choice to choose what you want to buy. And again, once you know the options out there, certainly you have a choice to get it from more places. And so that will help the consumer in the long run.
Okay, so we know tariffs are, are there. I mean, it's there, we can't avoid that. I'm thinking that, for me, I always look at, how sustainable are we as individuals living in this country, right? And how sustainable is our country? So I know that we brought the VAT, down to 5%, making it more affordable for individuals.
On food items.
On
yes.
food items.
Yes,
Are we looking to perhaps do that on maybe building supplies? People that want to be a bit more sustainable, have their own home, you know what I mean? What anything, for
Again, a lot of that falls under the trade diversification program that the Davis administration is also looking into. And what that is, allowing us to go and source items from other places other than just the United States. And so, for example, we're doing it with meat, we're doing it with some other products. But I can tell you that, for example, a pallet of items from Brazil to the Bahamas, maybe $150, when that same pallet from the Bahamas to Florida is some $300. And so once we know of the options out there, I can tell you our trade commission has been out there, has been looking at different partnerships, and certainly once we form those partnerships, we're able to find better deals for Bahamians.
Okay, as we wrap up, any final words you want to say to the public out there?
Well, again, it's something that we're excited about. There are some game-changing initiatives. Bahamians want to feel reliefs in their pockets, and so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring reliefs. There's a program called Affordable Bahamas, and the Affordable Bahamas are looking for ways to ease the burden for Bahamians straight across the board.
All right, well, it's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you.
Thank you for all that you're doing in your department.
Appreciate it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.
One thing, two things, blue thing, old things, things that are small, things that are grand, things that fit just right in the palm of your hand. Fox Hill Nursery, a large selection of garden supplies. If you can see it in your mind, you can find it at Fox Hill Nursery.
Welcome back. Today we're joined by Dr. Sean Knowles, and he's here to discuss the dangers of addiction and how we can recognize the warning signs and what can be done to support those struggling with it. Good morning and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Yes, good morning. Always a pleasure to be here.
All right, so we are talking about addiction. First of all, tell us, what is addiction?
Okay, so I'll give two definitions. One is, I guess, the scientific, and the other will be the psychological. So I guess scientifically, addiction, we describe it as being a chronic brain disease where it's characterized by impulsivity, lack of control over urges, and it's a disruption in the brain circuits that's responsible for reward and stress. In terms of the psychological, and this is a definition that blew my mind when I first learned about it, it's a substitute satisfaction for an essential unmet need or for dealing with painful emotions. And I find that a lot of our people fit that category. Yeah. In addition to that, addiction, it is a developmental disease. It starts from the young. And that is a very, very important point to keep in mind because the brains of our young people are developing. It doesn't complete development until about age 24. And so any kind of substance use or behavioral use has the likelihood to cause that young person to develop an addiction and even other mental illnesses.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about some of the addictions then, because there's the drug addiction, there's the alcohol addiction, there's even the gambling addiction, right? So tell us about that.
Yeah, so the two main categories would be substance use and behavioral. So substance use, definitely the most dangerous one of all I consider is alcohol. And how many of our young people, again, whose minds are developing, who are consuming alcohol on a daily basis and in large quantities. Of course, we have marijuana. We also have cocaine use. That's starting to become an issue. Ecstasy, vaping. Vaping is a big issue, particularly amongst our high school students. And in terms of the behavioral, gambling, of course, you also have gaming addiction. You have shopping. Some people have addiction to shopping. Working as well, and even pornography. So those would be some of the common ones I would have seen.
Yeah. And what do you think it is that causes people to sort of fall into the trap of addiction?
Yeah, so In terms of our young persons, high school students and even middle school students, has to do a lot with their needs not being met. That's a key one. Certainly peer pressure is high on the list. In terms of adults, a lot of issues with the stress of life, relationships, financial issues. It causes people to spiral in that direction to try to deal with their pain, but unfortunately it adds more harm than good.
Okay, and just tell us about the effects, I guess, of each. So you've got the psychological, right? And then you also have the substance. What's the long-term effects of each of those?
So in terms of the psychological, and I want to go take that a step further, the trauma that people deal with in childhood and adolescence, that continues on and causes that person to continue with that addiction, and of course it damages the brain and the body in the interim. In terms of the body, the effects physically, you have brain issues. Persons who are chronic users of substances are at risk for developing heart attacks and strokes and damage their pancreas, their kidneys, their liver. And so you see the effects of these manifested once persons who continue to use these substances without getting the help that they need.
Right, and let's just talk about the timeline of that. So once someone becomes addicted to, whether it's a substance or whatever, what usually is the timeline before it gets to that level where it's, like there's no turning back?
Yeah, so it's very, very evident once adolescent starts using in terms of substance use. You see the effects right away. And if I can be very honest with you, I would be talking to, for example, an 18-year-old, and 2 minutes later I ask him to repeat what I'm saying, and he has no remembrance whatsoever. So the amnesia effects is definitely there. In terms of their communication, their ability to learn, all of that's hampered almost instantly during the time their brain is developing until the age of 24. In terms of older persons who would, may have started from that time as well, but it continues on in adulthood, you see the effects definitely physically. In terms of substances, they look much older than their stated age. They may be dealing with effects of diabetes early. Hypertension definitely is high up there. So these non-communicable diseases have the likelihood of developing.
Wow. So what advice would you give to those individuals then that are struggling with addiction?
Yeah, so there's hope. That's the first thing. Always remember there's hope, and there are resources available. We need more resources. I'm particularly concerned about our family islands, but as of now, we have the CCAC, which is located on Collins Avenue. It's our nation's only outpatient, and again, I stress that we do need more resources, so seek help. And even for persons who have loved ones or family members, take them to a psychiatrist, take them to set up an appointment to see a psychologist, someone who can help them. And in the end, being our brothers and sisters keeper, it'll make a big difference.
Yeah, and I find that recently you've been hearing a lot more about, I guess the rate of suicide has kind of gone up too in the country. I don't know if it's just gone up or we're just hearing more about it. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that. I guess it gets really, really bad and people just get to that point, right?
Yeah,
how do we kind of avoid that?
Yeah, so the suicide situation is very concerning. Just some brief stats about it. We recognize globally, and it applies here to the Bahamas, men have more successful suicides. Women have more attempts. And when the person gets to that point where they're feeling hopeless, they do decide, to think that suicide is my only way out. One of the #1 causes of suicide is depression, major depressive disorder. It's very prevalent. In fact, I'm willing to say it's probably the #1 disease worldwide. And so again, you want to take anyone who is giving you signs of suicidality, take it seriously and get them help. You have to take action to get them help, because depression, it doesn't just go away. It requires continuous treatment and early detection.
Right. And gambling, we're seeing a lot of that in our country as well. Is that a problem?
So to be very honest with you, first of all, not everyone who gambles has a gambling disorder. I know we have some sort of cultural perception about that. But I will say this, in terms of my experience, I have been seeing more women who have been dealing with gambling issues, the consequences of it, have a gambling disorder, but they're being asked to come and see psychologists, psychiatrists, because of what it's gotten them into in terms of legal issues, problems with money, etc. So we do have persons who are struggling with gambling. disorder. But I'm happy that the gaming board, they're able to work with us in terms of providing help for persons that they recognize may have the red flags of a gambling disorder.
Okay, I mean, it's been a pleasure having you on. We are out of time. I feel like we need to bring you back on because there's so much more to discuss. But, just as we wrap up, for anybody that is dealing with addiction, whether it's the family or the individual themselves, just tell us how can we, what can we do? And just tell us about, where can we go to get help?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll start off with the Community Counseling Assessment Center, CCAC on Collins Avenue. That is available, and persons just have to call, make an appointment, and they'll get scheduled in. But in terms of the suicidality, if a person cannot assure you that they're not going to do harm to themselves, that's a medical emergency. Get him or her to the hospital right away. Be it Doctor's Hospital, the Princess Margaret Hospital, or for those in Grand Bahama, the Rand Memorial Hospital, or even the clinics on the Family Islands. In terms of dealing with depression and anxiety and all of these other issues that people are dealing with, definitely it's important that you act to get that person help, because again, it doesn't go away. Drinking alcohol, smoking marijuana, using cocaine only adds more problems to your life.
Okay, all right. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you for everything that you're doing to help with this issue.
Thank you, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching Bahamas at Sunrise. If you have someone struggling with addiction, be sure to get them help. We'll be right back. That's going to do it here for us on Bahamas at Sunrise. Thank you so much for joining us today. We had a wonderful show, great interviews, lots of great information as we celebrate Financial Literacy Month. Be sure to have a great week, and we'll see you back on Friday.